Hey guys, happy 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. What is the Marine Corps? It is the smallest, largest gun club in the world, full of a bunch of great guys that have gone through incredible things together and still friends. And we have this community. Um, when I first married my wife, actually, I think we were engaged. She goes, "Hey, why do these people keep honking and waving at me when I'm driving on the road?" I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, people drive up, they'll pull up next to me, they'll look over, they'll give me a honk, then they'll give me a wave, a salute, and then they take off. And I go, well, they have a little round sticker on the back of their windshield. It's a little red sticker, gold. She goes, yeah, come to think of it, it does. I said, well, you have one on the back of your car. And I put it on there. And that's, kind of the secret brotherhood handshake. So when another Marine pulls up next to you on the road, don't be surprised if they say hello. See, you never see Army of One or anything like that. You see United States Marine Corps, and you see parrots that have the same sticker, and it says "Proud Parrot of a U.S. Marine." And so, with that being said, we are celebrating the 250th anniversary. And what better way than one of my childhood idols? And it's so funny to say that because he is still an idol and also a Marine and also a Vietnam vet. I have on with us tonight Larry Wilcox, former Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. And without further ado, Larry, I can't thank you enough, sir, for coming on here with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you
God
kidding?
bless you.
This is great. And I know that there are I follow you on social media. I love all of the stuff that you're doing, and it brings back a lot of memories. You were 30 years old back when you started doing that show in 77,
Right.
and I was 13 years old. So Saturday nights, I'm home with my sister, my mom, my dad, and guess what? We're watching Chips.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah, those
great
were
show.
good times. I was lucky you were employing me, keeping me employed. That's what
Yes,
I
sir.
tell fans when we do those Comic Cons, Eric Estrada and myself. And I'll tell everyone, thank you for employing me.
Oh, you sound like me. I walk back to all the passengers and I go, "Hey, I just want to let you know I appreciate your business. So does my family. Your ticket is
Yeah,
supporting my family. So thank you so much."
you bet.
No, but you know what? As a Marine, I just want to take you back and tell me, what was kind of going through your head in 1967 when you were 19 years old, because there's a war raging on,
Yeah.
and it was a
Well,
crazy time.
yeah, it was crazy. Well, I was kind of a combination of things. My older brother had been in the Marine Corps, and he was kind of an incorrigible truant. And when he went in, that was a good thing that he went in. But when he came home from after boot camp and ITR, I guess,
Hmm.
he was a changed young man. He was, 6'2", 194 pounds, handsome, just a badass. And I went, whoa, how'd this happen? And I was really impressed. He was kind of like my idol as a young boy. We were about 4 or 5 years difference in age, and so I started becoming a Marine Corps fan, and I would read books about leathernecks and being airborne and force recon and all that stuff that I wanted to do, but hadn't been exposed enough. That's a problem with being raised in a small town. I was born in San Diego, but I was raised in Wyoming.
Yeah,
So
that's
from
all
the time I
crazy.
was 2 years old till 17, 18, I was in Rawlins, Wyoming. And you don't have a choice of things because you have myopia. Your spectrum of knowledge and choice is really limited, almost suffocated. And I didn't know about aviation and forced recon a little bit, but not much. And so I was kind of on a halter, if you will, like a horse.
Mhm.
I joined the Marine Corps, which I'll explain in a minute, and I just said, "Where do I go next?" I didn't know. The only thing my older brother gave me really good advice. He says, "Every time they offer a test, take every test, no matter what test, take it." And I didn't wasn't sure what that even meant, but I learned later on because after boot camp, they asked me, "Do you want to go to OCS? You qualified to go to OCS, and or do you want to go to a language school if you don't go to OCS. I said, well, what's OCS mean? Will you sign this contract? What's that contract mean? Well, instead of 3 years in the Marine Corps, you're going to be 6 years. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'll do 3 years. Right? So they said, okay, well, you're the only Marine picked to go to language school, so you speak some French, and so we'll send you up there to language school. I thought this is going to be so awesome, and I'll come back to boot camp in a minute. But I thought, wow, imagine these guys are going to Vietnam. I'm going to Paris in my dress blues, and I'm going to meet all those pretty French girls and have a great time, right? And yeah. Sure enough, the Marine Corps lost my orders. But back to your question, so I really wanted to be in the Marine Corps, and I was read a lot of books about it and was pretty excited. And then there was a death in my family, and I came home to help my mother based on that family tragedy. My sister was murdered, and so I said, I need to stay here and help my mom. And so I started working on the railroad, Union Pacific Railroad, as a telegrapher. And next thing I knew, I got drafted. So now I was really upset because I was going to go in the Army, right? There's no way I was going to go in the Army. I got to be a Marine, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm going to go to, if I'm going to Vietnam, I'm going to be in the Marine Corps, the best trained as they are, right? So I joined the Marine Corps. And when they asked which branch of service, the Marines, and I went in at that point in time, 3 years, and as an enlisted man, and showed up in San Diego with a bunch of guys that still had their swag. And I was in platoon 283, and those 3 drill instructors were really jackasses. I was kind of an athlete of sorts. I say that with humility, but I played football and basketball, and I'm used to getting in fights. And so, the Marine Corps, I thought I'll be fine. And it was not fine. And I remember getting on those yellow steps and getting hit with those billy clubs on the back of your hamstrings, and yelled at and screamed at, and everyone was swag, getting their hair shaved off to bald and their big ears showing, and their pants weren't bloused, and they were just slime ball pukes, as they called us, right? You aren't Marines, you are pukes. And so we went through boot camp, and I became the guide of the platoon, and I learned the psychology, I think, of boot camp. And so every time when you'd screw up, they would make us. There were a bunch of punishments that the public, some of your public may know because they're Marines, right? But some may not know. So if I'm redundant, cut me off. But
no.
Sometimes they would tell us, and it would be big guys and little guys. There'd be smart guys and really dumb guys that shouldn't have been there. And there were macho guys, and there were guys that definitely were mama's boy and shouldn't have been in the Marine Corps, and they joined because of the dress blues. They didn't realize what they were getting into, right? We had all of those people. So, working with those personalities was interesting. I can remember when they made us swim in the mud, they made wet mud for us, and then they told us to get in the mud and do the side stroke and do what are we doing here, right? And obviously it was a mental game. Right. And so there's a great big old guy. I forgot his name. I could look him up in my Marine Corps annual thing. And but he was crying. I wouldn't want to give his name out, but he was crying. And I'm looking at him. What are you crying for? He says, "This is ridiculous. Why do we have to do this?" I said, "Dude, this is a mind F. You know what? That's all they're doing. What you have to do is just say in your mind, you can outswim these jackasses any day. So enjoy the swim. It's a mind deal. Don't worry about it, right?" And so he kind of looked at me and started swimming in the mud, right? And which means you just get filthy. And then they would put us at attention and say they're going to have an inspection, and the lieutenant was coming over, or the CO, and some CO would come over and be a really jackass and ask, "What the hell? Were we ready for inspection?" "Yes, sir." "Are you clean and ready to go through inspection?" "Yes, sir." They were covered in mud, right? And they would say, "Are you a liar? "Are you one of those pukey liars that says you're clean and ready?" "Sir, the private's ready." And he would just keep lying, right? And then wait to see which one would break and say, "No, sir, the drill instructor made us do that." "Oh, it's over for you, right? Your life's over." So they're trying to break you, right? That was one thing in the boot camp. And then, of course, when in the beginning they like to get your in when I was in, they would get your attention because obviously you're going to war and you need to pay attention. And
Yeah.
so every morning when we go to the mess hall, you salute in the front of the mirror, right? And have to have your thumb perfect, right? Or if it's sticking out anyway, they pull that M14 chamber back, put your thumb in it, and let the chamber gun down, right?
Oh.
Bam! And oh man, your thumb's all swollen and bleeding, right? Hurts
Oh.
like you don't know. And it's like next time you salute perfect, right? So that was another thing. And then they would let you eat. I can remember putting sugar on my cottage cheese because I naively wanted some energy. Little did I know about spikes and sugar at that time. But
Right.
and then they, of course, fall out, and they'd be hitting on the back of you as you're running out. And now you go on a really treacherous force march, right? Where they want you to throw up immediately and then go work out with weights and all those exercise programs, right? So that was another punishment. And oh man, we really had a lot of different things where we go, who's going to hang around today? And they'd find some guy that just, they were so abusive. I'll tell you about one guy. His name was Private Pukey. Yeah, I won't give you his real name because he may be out there, and he turned out to be pretty impressive. But
Pukey. Okay.
Private Pukey was a red-haired, four-eyed MFer, as they called him, right? And so Private Pukey, front and center. Private Pukey had run up there, right? And his little fat body with red hair and glasses. "Why'd you join the Marine Corps?" "Sir, the private liked the uniform." "Oh, bam!" They hit him, right? And they always hit you on your chin right there, right? Or in the trachea. So they hit you in the trachea, which used to really, it was a trigger for me, right? I sometimes wondered, what if I smack this guy? What's going to happen? He shouldn't be hitting me in the trachea. It would have been
Oh yeah.
over, right? But these guys were in command, and then they'd always hit right on the back of your head too, like with their knuckles like that, right? When your rifle wasn't clean, or you didn't stamp your uniform right, and
Right.
so poor Pukey, Private Pukey, they would really mess with him. And every time we go on a run, a physical, really tough run where we would go up and down hills and stuff, as you know, and Private Pukey couldn't make it, right? So he would fall down, and then they would tell us, him and this other guy Dunbar, we had to give him a blanket party. And at night, if he did, that was where everyone put him in a blanket and hit him, right, tell him to get his
yeah.
act together. It was awful. And so they were trying to do this crowd control of individual screw ups. And so Private Pukey at night, he would be the only one. They'd wake up, and then they'd march him out to the fence where the Navy was and tell Private Pukey he didn't belong in the Marine Corps. He wasn't Marine style. And so they see that fence. "We want you this week to go AWOL. You go over that fence and join the Navy. You don't belong in the Marine Corps." And then they would bring him back, and I thought, poor Pukey, man, oh man. And so next thing I know, Private Pukey's gone. He's not in our platoon anymore. And we're at ITR infantry training, and we're getting ready to fire our rifles and all that. So we're doing all those sling exercises where you pull your arm way underneath the rifle to have it really tight, so your prone
Yeah.
position's excellent, and all that
Practicing
stuff.
all on the target barrels and dog target and sit there, snap in, practice, snap in.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so Private Pukey's gone. I'm wondering, wow, I wonder what happened to Private Pukey. And they sent him to the fat farm. In the fat farm, you get out, they take you out of boot camp.
Mhm.
And for the next few weeks or months, depending on how fat you are, they made him run every day and make little ones out of big ones, meaning a sledgehammer, big rocks, break them into pebbles, fill them in a wheelbarrow, go to the other end and do the same thing and go back, right?
God, that sounds
Oh,
like corrective custody.
That's awful. but he did come back to a boot camp, but he had to start over right from the beginning, which is awful, right? And getting through it once is good. So I was the guide of the platoon, and the reason I think I was guide is, I won in the Pugo sticks, right? The hand-to-hand stuff. My brother showed me some things that don't get all creative with all this stuff, and you're not doing karate and in this, you want to make sure that you strike first and hardest, right? So the simplest thing is boom, right in the gut, right in the beginning. And every guy I would take out, big guys, little guys, it just seemed like I'd beat them all. So then the drill instructors put 2 guys on me, right? And then I would get them. I'd be pretty good. So I was proud of myself. And I did the physical fitness test really well also. And so anyway, then we go to shoot, and I'm pretty good. I'm going to probably shoot expert. Damn if I didn't shoot marksman.
What? Wyoming boy, come on.
Yeah, I think I just choked, And every time after that, I shot expert. But that day, I shot marksman. And at 500 yards, I didn't hardly miss the bullseye. But that day, I did, right? And so anyway, I got marksman. So now I got demoted. They took me out of the guide. I'm ashamed in the Marine Corps, a marksman. I think I would have won the dress blues, right? And so I was just a regular Marine from then on. And I graduated just private, and then went on in life, And so that was my boot camp. So I finish ITR. They tell me my math skills are good, so you're probably going to go into survey. What survey? Yeah, I remember doing survey as a kid in ranches. We do fence lines and all that stuff with a survey instrument. And the survey in the Marine Corps was a theodolite T16 deviation error of 0.003, so it was really accurate. And so I learned to survey, fire direction control, and FO. Those were my 3 jobs as a 0844. So they would, we learned to be inserted and extracted on all the LZs and survey those LZs and set up 05 and 55 howitzers in Vietnam. They lost my orders for my language school, so I never got to go to language school. And they sent me to jungle school. And then next thing I know, I was in Okinawa. And next thing I knew, I was in Da Nang, sitting in that red dirt, hot as hell. And they said, and they announced on the announcer, where you're going. It's kind of intimidating. It's your new country. It's hot. Guys are getting off C-130s or helicopters, all wounded and bandaged, and you're sitting there. That's where you're going, right? And Da Nang was where we went. Marines went on R&R, right? So I knew I was going way up there. And I'm reading Not Life magazine about 9th Marines just having tremendous amount of casualties and always in the thick of it.
Right.
And so they're getting hit hard. And I think, damn, I hope I'm not going to the 9th Marines, and they're up in Contien. I read all about Contien, and sure enough, Wilcox 2331 876 Contien. I go, oh gosh, why me? And so anyway, I land in Dong Ha, and they tell me, what was I? Maybe I was a PFC then. I'm not sure, but I think I was a PFC. And anyway, they tell me, you're going to get on a personnel carrier and you're going to go a little farther north above Dong Ha, kind of I think it was like up by C2 as a northern area, close to DMZ. Mm-hmm. So we went up. They said, we're going to get sniper fire. And what do you mean sniper fire? Well, you don't have a flak jacket or a rifle or jungle boots or anything yet. I'm just out of recruit training, right? And my brain had been washed. I thought I was a badass because I was in the Marine Corps, but not even close, right? And so we're trained pretty well, but in retrospect, I'll tell you a story about that I don't think well enough. But so we go to this little area up by C2, and I get there. And first day I walk in through the 105 howitzer battery that was set up to go to supply to get boots and stuff, right? And gun, rifle and so on. And walk in front of 105 howitzer, and Jack shoots off, blows my eardrum off in my right ear, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, what happened? And doctor tells me later, well, you idiot, you can't walk in front of the battery of '05 howitzers. They're firing all day and all night. And then immediately we had little tents that we slept in, like 8 guys or whatever. And it's really cold, like November or so on. I put little candles under my little cot before we go out to our next area when we slept in the jungle, and try to keep warm. And then when the guns would go off the first night, I'd be jumping all over. Where do we go? What's going on? Right? Shut up, Wilcox. Those are our own guns, right?
How long did it take you to figure out incoming, outgoing?
About a few days, but
Yeah.
incoming took a little longer because there's different sounds you have to recognize. And then there's the time frame, like artillery, you have about a 5 to 8 second hiss. Right. So
Yeah.
as soon as you hear that hiss, you better get in a hole or get on the ground or don't be running.
Yeah.
Hopefully you beat that hiss. Sometimes you don't. And
Right.
and then with rockets, it was worse. It's just that scream of the devil coming for you, and it's really screamy and high pitched, and everybody has a shared purpose, but you're kind of like in a bar or restaurant or a cabaret of grief, man. I mean, you look around and there's no happiness here. What the hell am I doing, right? And jumping in holes and guys jumping on top of you. And I remember a sergeant major had 2 cigarettes in his mouth. We're just getting hit hard with artillery and mortars, and shit's blowing up everywhere. And one guy's putting a recorder outside the foxhole recording the incoming. Oh, so what are you doing recording that shit?
Really?
Such idiots, yeah.
Yeah.
And the sergeant major was scared, and he was trying to tell us to set up. We're going to set up a mortar, put it on high angle, and we're not. It's not put it on high angle. It's going to come down on us, right? And it's just on high angle. They're shooting from way out there. At least I had that FO knowledge that I'd been trained in and as a forward
Right.
observer. So that was probably my first few days in Vietnam. And then from then on, we had a hard charge and lieutenant colonel named Lieutenant Colonel Dunwell. And then Major McFarland, he was a Harvard guy. And we had one other major too, who was a Wyoming guy of all things. And he when I first checked in there, he had me come in and report to him. And he said, well, what did you do so spectacular, you think, in boot camp? I don't, nothing. I don't know. I'm kind of a jock. So some of that stuff wasn't that hard for me, but some was, I mean, when they stuffed us in closets at the ITR, put 70 of us stuffed in a closet, stacked on each other so we couldn't breathe and stuff, right?
Holy crap.
And locked us in that closet. And some guys are claustrophobic, right? Just
Right.
like the water training, same thing. And I got back on that shelf, and guys are on top of me, and I just breathe and relax real easy, right? And
Yeah.
guys are screaming and crying in there, right? And then when your drill instructor night, the black drill instructor we had, he would start drinking sometimes, and he'd get really mean. And when you come out, he'd be hitting you and calling you names and stuff. And then in the water, he was super mean to the black guys in the platoon. And he always called them effing sinkers. Effing sinkers over here. All the sinkers over here with me, right? And he'd make them, because he said their bone density they couldn't float like white people.
Actually, the muscle density, so muscly.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but he was being abusive, to say the least. And he'd hold them under the water and do all that stuff when we're jumping off the tower with full pack and all that stuff. So, boot camp was a test, a physical test, and a mental test. If you could figure out, if you were smart enough to understand the mental test, then you would be okay physically. You just have to hang,
Yeah.
and I think Major McFarland, or the major from Wyoming, asked me, what did you do? I don't know. And he says, well, I've been in the Marine Corps for X amount of years. I've never seen marks like this. I didn't even know what marks he was referring to on my DD-214, right? And what marks? You're like 4.9 everything, and 5.0 is perfect. What did you do?
Wow.
And
That's
I said,
awesome.
yeah, I was the guy to the platoon, and I think there was one thing I did. I'll share the story with you. So when I was guide, I tried to train the platoon, these 70 guys. Some were better athletes, obviously, and stronger and tougher than me.
Uh,
And some were weak and shouldn't have been there, but they're in your team. So you have to make your team a team, right? Culture. And so I told them, look, when the drill instructors come out of the mess hall, we're all supposed to be at attention, and we have this stuff that we have to repeat and scream real loud and show that we're the best platoon of any platoon at MCRD, right? And you all say it in unison. So, if it's repeating the nomenclature of an M16 or M14 or whatever it is, we have to scream it loud in unison, right? Yeah. Now, let me give you one more thing. I said, a couple of you, when they come out, I want you, private such and such, nod your head like this. That's my signal, okay? And then stare at me, because if they see you looking at him, you're going to get beat up, right? So stare at me after you see him out of the corner of your eye and nod. And they said, why? It's because I'm going to slug one of you or two of you in the stomach, but I'll pull my punch, but it's going to be kind of quick and they won't be able to see from that far away. But you bunch over like, oh, I really hit you. And I yell at you like, you're a dumbass. And so, and they say, okay. I said, this is acting 101, right? And so I had all my guys trained who I'd hit and they were good at it. I had one guy I almost had to get in a fist fight with over it, but most guys were good at it, right? And so I said, I think it was that. They saw me lead, but they didn't realize I was faking them out, right? But
Beginnings of an actor, huh?
Yeah. So they thought I was the leader of leaders. So anyway, I was just a normal guy. But next thing I was in Vietnam.
But you know what, Larry, if you think about it, the stress that they created, the closet,
Yeah.
the water, I mean, we all go through all those mental tests, but
Yeah.
until you land and all of a sudden a rocket comes screaming over your head,
Yeah.
that really does prepare you. I mean, in a crazy way, it's weird, but all the little things you don't realize do prepare you to deal with the mental stress that you may be under at that moment in combat. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of interesting conditioning that takes place in a young Marine, and you have a broad spectrum of capability there or incapability in some cases, but, and IQs. But,
Yeah.
I think they really prepare you properly with even a false bravado, if you will, and in kind of they take away your swag and your phony relevance of who and what you think you are, and they
Uh-huh.
break you down into individual unbloused uniforms and shaved head and big ears showing and whatever you are, you're just a wannabe at that point in time. And then through shared purpose, they start to condition you to lead and to expect
Yeah.
never quit and loyalty and relentless trust on each other and never give up and never fail, right?
Hmm.
And so you have that false bravado. By the time you do go to Vietnam, probably 80% at least are trained to believe that. And so when your commanding officer or your platoon leader or a sergeant tells you as a fire team, you four jackasses go up that hill now and the machine gun shooting at you, you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, there's not a, well, let me debate it, man. No, you go because it's that going. Obviously you're a sacrificial item. That's the sad part. But if you don't go, a lot of people are going to get killed. So, moving forward, being smart, how you move forward, um, starting to learn little tricks in terms of the rifle and your marksmanship and use of ammunition panic and fright, how to manage that, and try to get guys, where I can remember, when they'd hit you all the time in boot camp for little things like you burped or you smiled or you laughed or
Right.
you were smoking when you weren't supposed to smoke and you were cheating in the bathroom by trying to do some. They break all that habit, with
Yeah.
punishment, and that's important because when you get in war, you can't have any of that. If you think you're going to laugh when there's 10 Vietnamese Viet Cong right there,
Yeah.
and you're under camouflage, and you can't do that. And you have one or two of those guys. I had one officer and maybe two Marines that were kind of dickheads, probably shouldn't have been there. A Annapolis graduate guy was just, geez, really bad. And I don't know how he became an officer, but and a couple Marines were not really Marines, in my opinion. But the first day that I was there, when I told you all those stories, I went in the mess hall, and here's to bring one of my stories full tail to the head. I walk in the mess hall, and I'm all I know is I'm going to go to some really hot LZs, trained to be an FO, life expectancy about 16 seconds, right? So I'm not sure I want to do the FO thing, right? And if I can do FDIC or survey, that's what I'm going to do, right? And that force recon heroes left me, right?
Reality settled in a little bit, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you a force recon story that I recently went down with them in the training that they were doing, and it was great. And these guys are alpha males beyond alpha males. I realize that, that water intimidates me. I can swim pretty good. I'm a dry lander, but I could swim and do all the stuff that we had to do. But this stuff they have to do in the water, that scares the hell out of me.
It's insane.
And so other than that, I could probably jump and do all the other stuff, but that water I would not have passed. So I'm really impressed with Force Recon. And then a great outfit in the Army, which I didn't know about then, was MACV SOG, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I go in the mess hall and I look up, and there, guess who I see?
Pukey.
Private Pukey. I'm going, oh my God, how did he get here? And I go up to him. I don't call him Private Puke. I call him by his name, right, out of respect. And he tells me his story, red hair, glasses, still a little tubby, but not as tubby as he used to be,
Yeah.
And he's serving everyone meals, so I can't talk to him too long because he's going to get in trouble, right? Yeah. But not like boot camp. I want to tell you something, Private X. And he says, what's that, Wilcox? And I said, you're the only Marine in our platoon, man. You were the only Marine. The fact that you graduated finally out of 2 boot camps and Fat Farm, you're pure Marine. God bless you.
Yeah.
Because he was abused, and he made it. So that was a neat story. And then,
did you guys stay in touch?
No, never did.
Were you there during your tour?
No. And most of my buddies, I never, like, one time I saw Ferris, this guy, Private Ferris, he's a really funny guy. And Private Piggy, we had, Piggy was the red pig from Georgia, really good basketball player too. When we were back in Dong Ha, we played basketball. I always thought I could beat him, but I never could. But you wouldn't think he's a basketball player. He's kind of chubby, but man, could he shoot. Anyway, I ran into Ferris once, when the infantry, he was in 9th Marines, and they were coming by us, and, hey, Ferris, what are you doing? He said, hey, Wilcox. And I said, what's going on? And where's, I can't remember these guys' names now, but where's Private such and such? One is his dad was an admiral in the Navy, right? And he was a enlisted man with us in boot camp. And the other one was a captain in the Marine Corps, a real handsome kid. Oh. And I said, where's such and such? And he looks at me and goes, boom. I said, what?
Shot himself?
Shot himself? That's what I said. No, he's walking point, first day, gone. Killed him. I said, oh my God. And what about such and such? Same, he's dead. I said, wow, already? Said, yep. And then you read about, walking cherry as the front of the point, being the point man, you're always vulnerable up there. And
So out of your platoon picture here, how many guys do you think you lost in Vietnam?
have no clue. Um, those guys, to those two guys, I could maybe find them and see if their names, but not right now. But I don't know. We got hit weekly and daily
Yeah,
sometimes. Because we were always every LZ we went to, we were getting hit, and we
yeah,
went to. I think we had 5 presidential unit citations. They put 3 in my DD-214, but I know we got 5.
right.
And we just constantly going into hot LZs, setting up, artillery batteries, etc. And so we were a target. And sometimes, I have pictures that I'm really ashamed of uh, when I'm out on top of they inserted 4 of us on a hilltop to survey it. I'm the
Yeah,
survey, I call it survey officer, but enlisted man. And so I'm running the instrument and shooting all the azimuths and stuff, and either hoping for a quick extraction before we get hit or bring in
yeah.
the guns, right? And I have this picture of me and my friggin' rifle's lying down over there like 10 feet from me while I'm surveying it. What the hell is wrong with you? You never leave that rifle, right? It's
Right.
just stupid stuff. I feel like I was protected by this golden shield while I was in Vietnam. Got hit a lot, but never got wounded or hurt. And
Knock on
so
wood.
I spent 13 months in Vietnam, and then I was. This is how from Wyoming, how naive, dumb I was, right?
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what denial takes over where you're cognizant of the volatility, not the volatility, the vulnerability you have with life and death. And there's a point where someone asked me later on Chips, what do you like most? I says, I think pushing the envelope. They said,
Uh-huh.
"What the hell does that mean?" I don't know, but it's just fun. It's adrenal, and you get afraid, and then that's where it gets more exciting and so on. I think, where did that sick shit come from, right?
Well,
What's
getting
wrong
shot
with
at.
you?
Yeah, getting shot at, having rockets rain down on you, and the concussion.
Yeah, and people would scream and yell. And I remember Lieutenant Tobin. He's a big, tall, macho Marine. He was a lieutenant. He was a good leader. I took him all over Vietnam, man. And one
Uh,
time we had to pick up a explosive, big old piece of an unexploded rocket or something. And I'm driving the little Jeep, and he's sitting next to me. He always used me to go wherever he had to go, and we go up to Contien, and everyone's bandaged up and wounded. It's awful, just mud everywhere because they get hit daily by at least 100 rounds of artillery, and it's just
Jeez,
awful. And so it's kind of like Caisson. It was just a cemetery.
constant.
And so anyway, we were driving real fast in the Jeep. Wilcox, what the hell's wrong with you, sir? You said let's get down this hill. We got to get out of this area. We're going to get hit, and it's going to get dark. A sniper's going to get us. He's, slow the fuck down, man. You're going to blow us up with this friggin' ammunition sitting on my lap. So we went down the hill real slow and finally found another, group of grunts. And we, hey, here, take that over to such so we can't carry this anymore. We
Holy
got,
crap!
but it was stuff like that. But nothing, nothing happened. We flew in. We'd always be in, Chinooks or that old shitty Sikorsky that people Marines like, but I don't like that Sikorsky. But anyway, we're never got shot down, and we
Mm,
go into hot areas. I saw generals come once to our. I don't know. I think it was the rock pile. It was one of the LZs we were at, but I'm going to say the rock pile because I don't remember. But
uh-huh.
wherever it was, the hill, how choppers would take off and then kind of point down to get airspeed and then
Yeah,
take off. But as a pilot, the high, hot, and humid danger and the 3 H's, as they say. Be careful, 3 H's.
hot,
You have too
heavy.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah. And high, hot, heavy. Thank you. And that's what the heavy was. What was wrong, and they had too much stuff in there, and they just crashed and exploded. Killed the general, and
oh,
I don't
geez.
remember what his name. Someone asked me once on social media. I don't remember. But anyway, I got out. I came back in the Marine Corps and from Vietnam. Oh no, I'm going to extend for 6 more months.
Really?
Yeah, for my second tour. So by then I was I got meritoriously promoted 2 times, and so the
Are you
second,
corporal now?
yeah, I'm a corporal, and
Uh-huh.
I told him don't give me any more meritorious promotions. And the major looked at me, what are you, an idiot? But he didn't say that, but he just stared at me like, what the hell?
Why?
Why
Why?
would
What would more meritorious promotions get you?
I felt like I was like the uh, the eye of the apple of the major's eye, and the other Marines were getting like, "Oh God, what are you, the kiss ass? You
Oh,
got promoted
yeah, yeah,
again?"
yeah, yeah.
So I said, "Oh no, no, just keep it level right now. I don't need any more promotions." And he didn't
Right.
give me another one after that, and I was due for one as soon as then I became a sergeant and staff sergeant. But so anyway, what was I going to say? So, oh yeah, so now I'm going to extend. Gunnery Sergeant Dowd was my gunnery sergeant. Kind of,
Uh-huh.
he was a chubby guy one time when we were blonde-haired, chubby guy. But when I look back at Gunnery Sergeant Dowd, he was a good trainer, good coach, good
Mhm.
teacher, and a good Marine. And so when we went to those LZs and they'd insert us, they sometimes couldn't land, so you're jumping out of a Chinook, not very far, 6 feet or so, but you're still jumping out on stumps and rocks and stuff. And he couldn't jump out too good, right? And so he would come out and we'd survey, and then he would be taking notes of all the readings I would give him and so on. And then we call for an extraction, and then that helicopter coming in and put down that little ladder, the
Yeah.
back door thing. And but you got to get up on that, slide kind of up, and it's not easy. And there's no way he could get up. And he's holding us up, and we're all looking around. We're going to get hit. Get your fat ass up there, right? So finally, I'm grabbing him by his butt and shoving him up there, like, get on. We finally all crawl up as fast as we can, and chopper takes off. And anyway, he comes to me and says, hey, Wilcox, you never did take an in-country R&R. And how come? I said, before, I don't want to go have an in-country R&R. It just, you go in and out of illusion and reality. I don't like that
Yeah.
shock. And
Yeah.
so some people need it, I suppose, but I don't like it. And when I was in Hong Kong, believe me, I had some demons asking me why I was going back. Right? You're
Yeah.
gonna now go back after all this. You're gonna spend another 3, 4, 5 months and get killed, and you want to get back. When I got back, my unit had been overrun, by the way, and so I said, "Oh my God!" So
Garbage bill.
I finally went back, and so he says, you didn't go on the in-country honor. Why don't you're gonna extend, right? And I said, yeah. So he says, why don't you go on in-country R&R? It'll be good for you, and then when you extend, you can train some other guys and help with all the stuff we do, uh, LZs and all that stuff. And I said, okay. So I go to R&R, and our Marine Corps,
Was that down in Da Nang on the beach?
yeah, Da Nang, what is it called? White Beach or White
Uh,
Sand?
yeah, my dad was there in Da Nang in '67.
Yeah, that was it.
What was that?
And we get there, and it's so different because it's busy and the streets are busy, and you're looking. I'm just coming from a war zone now. I'm down here. What's the deal here, right?
Right.
And so we go in, and there's 101st Airborne's there, and the Marines are there, and we're at the same thing. Everyone's getting drunk, right? Nothing else to do, they get drunk and go to in the surfing, maybe.
Yeah.
And so we get drunk, and they show a movie that night. Oh, it's a war movie. I'm thinking, this is R&R, and I'm going to watch a war movie. Wow. So we watched a war movie with 101st Airborne, and it was something about the 101st. Excuse me. And then we get in fist fights with the 101st Airborne, right? And we're drunk and laughing. We don't care. We just think we're badass Marines, right?
Yeah.
And we're walking around strutting our stuff. And then we decide that we're going body surfing. And Drylander from Wyoming is going to go body surfing, right? So we get our bathing suits on, or maybe it was just our boxer shorts. Who knows? I don't remember. But we're running out there on the beach to be in this other big guy that I was with. I should remember his name, but I don't. And I got to look him up one day. But I don't know how to find him unless he's on one of my photos I have from Vietnam. But we go out there, and I ran right by the red flags. Had no idea what the red flags meant, right?
Right.
Super rip currents. And I'm out there swimming way out to get on a big wave so I can come back in and do my body surfing and all this, right? And damn, I'm just swimming and getting farther and farther out.
Oh,
And I'm also drunk. So I'm starting to drown. And so I'm choking the salt water, right? And finally I yell, help, because I'm going out, right?
yeah.
Like I'm a boat going out, not coming into the beach at all. That rip current's just pulling me and pulling. I don't know anything about rip currents. Swimming parallel, I learned later.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
Wyoming boy, come on.
There's a Brahma bull bucking me off. And so I'm the guy that I was with, somehow I drowned literally, and he got me and brought me in. I don't remember any of that. Wow. And then I'm on the beach, and they turn me over, and I'm throwing up all that salt water, that went in my lungs stuff. I was drowning for sure.
Yeah.
And I had a St. Christopher medal that I always wore for protect me, right? And it went in the water somewhere. I lost my St. Christopher medal. Now I had 2 months left, and I knew I was going to probably get killed in Vietnam, right?
Because you lost your good luck
St. Christopher. That was my superstition, if you will, or my belief system vacillated at that moment. So anyway, all these Marines are standing around me laughing that I'm choking and burning, and I'm ashamed that, I had to get rescued by this guy like some wimp, right? And I remember I really felt bad and angry at myself, and still didn't understand why that happened, but I learned over time. But anyway, now I go back to my unit. We take a C-130 up to Dong Han, then a chopper up to where we're at, with some LZ or something, and LZ Delta. And it's a neat little pretty valley with French buildings from when the French were there and so on. And it's a dangerous area to be in, but anyway, that's where we're at. And we land there, and I go to the gun. He says, okay, I got your paperwork here. And he had asked me earlier why I was going to extend in Vietnam, spend another tour, And I said, I pulled out this magazine. I said, see this? This is British Leyland. Have you ever heard of British Leyland? No. I said, they're the manufacturer of the XKE Roadster. Do you know what that is? No. I opened the page, and there's a Jaguar XKE Roadster convertible, right?
And that's what you're going to buy?
I'm going to buy this after this 6 months. I've saved all my money. And he looked at me like, what an idiot, right? He's going to risk his life for an XKE. And but after almost drowning and not losing my St. Christopher, I came back, and I said, he said, you can go home if you want. You can go to Cuba, Morocco, or California, I said, I'm going to go home. He said, where are you going? I said, California. He said, God, don't be a chicken shit, Wilcox. Come on. We need you here. And then he tried to humiliate me, to sign, right? But by then I was sure 100% I wasn't staying, right? And so anyway, then I was ready to go back to the States. I flew back to Da Nang. Da Nang's getting hit, and I'm thinking, here I am back in Da Nang, which was some guy's front position. Like the MACV SOG was right there in Da Nang. They of course would go into all the countries that we said we weren't in, right?
Right.
And they would 8 men would go in and be surrounded by 1,000 MVA, and then we'd be gathering intel. But I later worked in intel. It was interesting to see all that stuff. But so we got hit, and we watched those F4s take off, and afterburners, and before I'd see F4s dropping napalm, and that's unbelievable how that napalm does, right? Yeah. And we'd always shoot Willie Phosphorus with our white phosphorus with our artillery. So we'd walk it in, and then every day, how many did we get? We get any KIAs? It's like a scorecard, and
Yeah.
it's the mentality of winning, right? And so uh, I went from Da Nang. I went directly, I think, yeah, directly from Da Nang to Alaska,
Uh-huh.
and then Alaska to San Francisco, and then all the people in San Francisco giving me the finger and calling me names, and I was in my dress greens then, and
I was
I
going
don't
to
know.
ask you, did you have any time to kind of cool down before you flew back, or you just literally came out of the field, got a shower, got your uniform,
Yeah,
got your stuff or whatever, and then jumped on a commercial craft flight and
yeah, that's what we did. Just there was no time. There was no debriefing of any kind.
decompression?
Yeah, and so anyway, I landed in San Francisco and I was kind of scared, It's kind of weird being scared in your own country.
Yeah.
Because I was looking around, I realized that I was still a kid, I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew pretty much how to fight, even though when I read about MacVisog, I realized I didn't know. I knew a little bit, but
Yeah, but
MacVisog
the
was
life experiences that you've just experienced for 13 months is
yeah,
something these people that were, hippies out there, they've got no clue.
no clue whatsoever. And so I get in I have to ride a bus to somewhere, and I remember the bus was like, wow, this is like in heaven. It just up and down cushions and over
Uh-huh.
bumps, and it wasn't like a tank or anything, right? Or that
Yeah,
little
yeah.
Willie's Jeep. It was unbelievable. And man,
Or
you
a
could get
cattle car.
yeah, and I'm thinking how impressed I was with the bus of all things, right? And a Greyhound bus. And then I got somewhere, and then I had to take a taxi because I was going to visit my brother who lived up there now in San Francisco area. Forgot the town he was in, but up in that area. So I get in the taxi, and I know that I have some money, but I don't have very much money.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if I still had some in my account, in the Marine Corps account, and some cash or what. But I know I was really nervous about my money. And I'm sitting in the back seat of the taxi, looking at the ticker, going $3, $15, $18. I taking to my brothers, and I'm thinking, dude, you might not be able to pay for this, right? And
Yeah.
it's going to
Yeah,
be a problem.
call your brother up. Hey, man, I need some money.
Yeah, it's at $60, and I'm thinking, where's he driving me to Southern California, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I finally get there, and I get my sea bag, and I get out of the car, and I pull my money out, and I'm kind of like an idiot counting it in front of him to see if how much I have, right? And you can tell I'm just a poor
Mm.
kid, right? And he said, "Hey, kid, I just want to tell you, you just back from Vietnam, yeah." He said, "I want to tell you, thank you very much for your service and no charge. God bless you." And I started crying, tears came out of my eyes, like, wow,
Yeah.
thank you. And it was it's such a small gesture, but such a big gesture at
Yeah.
that time in my life. So I went and I saw my brother, and he was so proud of me and hugged me and looked at all my ribbons and medals and crap,
Yeah.
And we went in, and he said, you want to have a barbecue steak? And of course, I've been eating sea rations for 13 months. Yeah, that'd be great. And he said, go, why don't you go in there and take a shower, and then when you come on out, we'll the steaks will be all done. We'll have a nice dinner. All right, that's okay. And
Nice.
so I go in there and take a shower, and I come out and get my clothes, my civilian clothes on, right, and get out of my uniform, which feels good. And
Yeah.
I look around the apartment, and he's coming out of the bathroom. Did you take your shower? I said, yeah. Why didn't you use the washcloth? Or I said, oh, yeah, I forgot. I mean, for a year, I haven't had a washcloth. We just kind of wet up in the river or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Jesus, man, you got to use a washcloth." He's kind of making fun of me, right? So then he goes in the kitchen with his wife, and they bring me out my steak and put it on my plate, and they go back in to get other stuff, potatoes and all the stuff they've made. And I hurry up and look around, and I get down on the plate like a dog and lick the steak. I don't want him to see me, but I really wanted to savor that taste and that smell, right?
Yeah.
And I always said in Vietnam, after being there for a while, I could smell the air.
Yeah.
Air would change, and I knew what it meant or what it didn't mean. And my senses were really accurate and attuned to that environment. And to this day, my nasal capability is superb. Some guy
Yeah.
2 blocks away is smoking cigarettes down there, hates cigarettes, right? Hates smoking.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I licked the steak and we had a good time. And then I just showed the transition of a Marine from wars. I had this girl named Carlene Lawson that I met when I was in Wyoming playing the organ in a rock band. By playing the organ, I played 3 chords, 4 chords, C, A minor, F, and G. Louie
Right.
Louie, Help Me Rhonda, a few songs back in the day. So I could show off, but not be worth a damn. And I could get a few girls that way, right? And she was
Uh,
one of them. But she was a California girl. We Wyoming boys thought the California girls were everything, right? And
Beach Boys made that. Sure.
yeah, and the movies made us think that. And so next thing I know, Randy said he had this brand new Oldsmobile Cutlass, beautiful car, and said, "Would you like to take the Oldsmobile tomorrow? I'll drive my VW to work, and whenever you enjoy yourself." I said, "Well, I'd like to, but I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Where would I drive?" And I said, "Oh yeah, maybe Carlene Lawson lives up there in Santa Rosa. That girl that she kind of liked me and wrote me some what I construed as love letters, right? But
Uh-huh.
flirtatious letters over the years. And when I was at the University of Wyoming, so I said, yeah, I'll go visit her. So I'll surprise her. Dumb statement, right? So I get
Uh-huh.
in the Cutlass. I drive up to Santa Rosa, California. It's beautiful ranches and stuff. I even have her address because I mailed letters to her, right? So I go to her, there's nothing there. So I go back and maybe she's in college or something still, right? Or who knows where she's at. So I wait. I go to the local bar that I understand the shopping center her family owns, and I go in and I decide I'll get a little more strength in my heart. So I have a few beers, right?
Yeah.
And then I get back in the car and I drive up to Carlene's, and here I am, and Mr. Civilian now. Hair's a little short, but I'm back from Vietnam. I'm a hero, right? Knock, knock, knock. How you doing? Hey, Carlene, how did that Larry Wilcox remember me? And we talked, back in Wyoming. I was in Vietnam, and I know we got along great. And how'd you like to, go have an iced tea or a drink or something?
And her
I,
husband walks out.
my boyfriend's back there. I can't see you, and he's really jealous. And I'm really, really sorry. Click the door. Oh my God. And I was thinking all those guys that got those Dear John letters in Vietnam that were so sad, and I thought, man,
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't get any of those. But that was my Dear John, welcome back to the United States, right? But
You
then I
you
go ahead, excuse me.
oh, you reminded me when you got home. When I stepped off the airplane from Iraq, it'd been 8 months, I hadn't had anything to drink,
Yeah,
and I wanted, and I'm in my camis, and
yeah.
so my wife goes, it's my wife and my best man and his wife and his son, both of them were Marines. "Where do you wanna go?" And I said, "I wanna go to Esparza's," which was a famous little Mexican restaurant next to DFW. "I wanna go to Esparza's, and I want frigging margaritas." So they're like, "Got it." So we drive over there. I'm in my camis, which quote you weren't supposed to.
Yeah,
I don't care. Take the fitness report, poke me in the eye, send me back to Iraq. I don't give a crap.
yeah.
And I'm in my uniform. I'm sitting there eating the fajitas. We just did a clink, take a sip, and I look up, and there's Terry Bradshaw, football
Yeah,
legend,
yeah.
and Howie Mandel, and
Howie Long?
or Howie, not Howie Mandel, Howie
Yeah,
Long
yeah,
and Jimmy Jones.
yeah.
And
Jimmy
so
Jones.
those three walk in, and Howie and Terry had done a PSA for FEN or AFN or whatever we watched when we were overseas.
Uh-huh.
And they did like a commercial break for us, right? Hey boys, I know you all over there in Iraq and Afghanistan. Hey man, we just want to say good job and thanks so much. It really it meant a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I saw him and I'm like, wow. And I wave and he gives me a salute. Well, next thing you know, the owner comes over and says, Senor, Mr. Bradshaw would like to buy your table lunch and also any and this guy brings two more pitchers of margaritas. So now I'm thinking I'm going to be puking in my car on the way home because I'm going to be so drunk because these are top shelf margaritas. But I
Yeah.
got to go take them. So I go back. I had coins made up for TQ Alticatum. I was the air boss, and I had coins made up for our unit.
Yeah.
And I went over and I gave him the coin. I thanked him for what he did for us for the commercial because he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Larry, your homecoming, it it's I remember my dad coming home from Vietnam, and I remember my dad wearing civilian clothes because we lived in Arlington, Virginia,
Mhm. Yeah.
and he would drive across the bridge, and the hippies, if they saw you in uniform, would throw eggs at your car.
Yeah.
So when you pulled into the Navy, the annex or whatever they had a wash station there, buckets and sponges and stuff like that. So if your car got hit by eggs, you could
Oh,
wash the eggs off.
yeah.
And then he
Wow.
would go in to work, put his uniform on, put his civvies on. So the welcome home that you guys got was horrible
Yeah.
and un-American. What we should have done, taking care of our folks, not the ticker tape parade that World War II guys got, and then the nothing that Korea guys got, and then the
Yeah.
absolute hatred and venom towards you. But I am I am the product of joining in '86, the first Gulf War in '91.
Mm.
It was the pendulum had swung, and it was amazing to see yellow ribbons tied around trees
Yeah. So
and
great.
people patting you on the back and proud that you were part of the military,
Yeah.
and to see my last homecoming from Afghanistan, walking through our craft flight landed a big DC-10 full of Marines, and we get off the aircraft and we're walking through. They have these special hallways up above the airport. So
Mhm.
as we're walking through, everyone stopped, and we're talking DFW Airport D terminal. Everybody stopped, and they all stood there and started clapping. And I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
it it makes you I can't even put words in. And so when I talk to folks, I do an introduction to military PA as a retired Marine. I just want to see a show of hands. How many Marines do I have on board? Raise your hand. You'll get one or two. Raise your hand. Okay, how about Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard? How about spouses? And then I end up with Vietnam, and I go, how about any Vietnam vets? Are there any Vietnam vets on board like my father?
Yeah.
And I get one or two, and I'm like, sir, welcome home. You never got the welcome home you deserve. And you guys are the fabric of freedom, make this a great country, and the giants that we stand on your shoulders. So thank you very much. You guys never got it. And I want to thank you
Yeah.
personally for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
What, I want to also go back. Vietnam Tet. What was Tet to you? What happened that night when Tet kicked off? Because I know I hear my dad's stories. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, I never saw aircraft from any of MVA, although there were aircraft, but I never saw any. But all of a sudden, there was a lot of assaults and tanks, and a lot of tanks and equipment that usually you didn't see. You just running around in the jungle. But I think it just in music they have in symphonies they have four movements, and the fourth movement is the crescendo of all the different movements prior to that. It's usually a lot of a lot of percussion and chaos in the musical score. And
Yeah.
I always think of Tet Offensive as the fourth movement, and you know, shit hit the fan, and it just got really noisy, really loud.
And where were you at the time? What base?
I was Camlo, Quang Tri, Contien. Um,
So you're still up
and that,
north,
yeah, oh, I never
Nigel.
was. I was always up north, never left.
Yeah.
I mean, we went the Rock Pile, um, LZ Delta, LZ Winchester. I mean, all those LZ Stud, all those
Mhm.
LZs were all right up there. We were just search and destroy and looking for shit to blow up.
Yeah.
But so Quang Tri, which was under siege then, that was down below us, not very far, but maybe a few minutes
Mhm.
um, from Dong Ha anyway. Um, that got hit pretty hard, and then Dong Ha, the Dong Ha that was just below us, the main Dong Ha, which was kind of I considered it a rear, but it was only probably 3 to 5 miles from the DMZ, but it was our rear, right, for the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And they blew the hell out of it, and all the ammunition depot and all that stuff was going up. We got hit,
Wow.
but not as bad as they did. So
Did they
so
make
it,
it in the wire?
yeah,
In your
the guys got to make it in the wire, and we had our claymores all set up and everything, right? I love those claymores. and,
Yeah.
and you don't mess with the claymore, right? And the only problem with claymores sometimes when we would be in that little area above Dong Ha
Uh-huh.
is it was too close to Dong Ha, in my opinion. And when someone said, "Why is that?" and I said, "Well, we got hit." Sometimes I think we got hit by mistake because they thought we were Dong Ha, but we weren't. But we did have a battery or two of '05 howitzers and 175s. We used 8-inch from the Navy, from the Gulf, when we
Right.
used them. And but sometimes those people get too drunk back in Dong Ha and go out raising hell and thinking, and so drunk they would get in our concertina wire. And if you pull that claymore on them, it's over, And it always
Yeah.
worried me about killing my own guys because they're
Yeah.
drunk in there. And how do you identify? And same thing at night, when we first had those infrared scopes for night vision,
Right.
uh, they were pieces of crap. But
Yeah.
I would stare through that thing and look into the tree line, and I hate being because I always want to go to sleep. I'm so tired. I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys that has to really work to stay awake. But seeing through that scope was a waste of time, and I always worried about shooting my own guys with that also. And we did have friendly fire, not on my watch, but in my
Sure.
outfit had friendly fire and killed our own men.
Yeah, 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 I bet.
So, so
And
it's
did you guys have it's like grapefruit, what do they call that? The canister shot. Did you guys have
a beehive.
beehive? Yeah,
Yeah,
did you guys
yeah.
have beehives?
Yeah, we had beehive. We lower that gun down and come on, dude. You just disintegrate people with 1,000 darts, right? Kind of
Right.
pierce your body. But that's not. You don't want to mess with beehive. And, I was going to digress for just a minute about
Yeah.
training because after I came back, I went and worked in Intel, and but I look back and didn't realize, that you in war you need so much more training than you got. And if you ever read if you haven't, please read him. The books by Dick Thompson and Mac Vsog. His codename Dynamite. Dick Thompson, Mac Vsog.
Dick
Great.
Thompson.
What a great books. And I told him, I gave him a great compliment. I'll tell you about him. And anyway, I read his book in like 2 days and then read it again. And I just said, wow. And you Larry Wilcox, want to be the Force Recon. You want to be Force Recon, let alone Mac V Sog. These guys were the baddest badasses I've ever read about.
Oh yeah.
And they not only did they go through all the infantry training, and then they went through ranger training and airborne training and then Green Beret training. And finally, after they get Green Beret, they would say, how many guys in here would like to raise your hand and volunteer for Mac V SOG? And they said, but when you go in there, you're going to go in the skiff room and they're going to explain to you what Mac V SOG is. But let me tell you something, the casualty rate's around 100%. So everyone's going to get wounded and maybe killed, but I can't tell you anymore. So then they would go into the skiff room and they'd pull this blanket off this chart and, explain to them, if you volunteered, you came in here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, guys. You're going to be illegal soldiers. Get rid of your dog tags, get rid of those uniforms. Not going to use anything American. If you get captured, here's a pill if you want, but we're not, you're not an American soldier. Yeah, you're the elite warriors of elite warriors. And so you're going to go into countries we're not in, Cambodia and Laos and North Vietnam.
Right.
Sometimes you'll be rescue missions on a pilot that crashed his fighter plane. Sometimes it'll be POWMIA rescues. In almost every case, we're going to insert you at night. You're going to go down by strings in through triple canopy jungles. We're going to leave you there, and you're going to be surrounded 1,000 to 1. So these guys, Mac V SOG, you read their book, and this is the stuff I wish I would have had at least as a basic training.
Right.
Every night they would practice loading their guns, right?
Right.
Magazine in, magazine out, pitch dark and triple canopy. Can't see the gun, can't see the guy next to you. So you better know when you're getting overrun or they're shooting suppressive fire, you know what to do, right? And you got the magazine in, chamber the round, and you're off and running, right? And never eat food. You only eat Vietnamese food. So your odor is Vietnamese while you're in the jungle. And the dogs, fish and all that other crap, rice and so on, right? And so anyway, coming in on those strings, being extracted by strings when you're getting overrun, they would lay layer after layer of claymore mines, layer after layer of toe poppers, and blow them up as they're coming running, 50 North Vietnamese coming at them in full force, screaming on drugs and so on, just don't care, right? And they hit toe poppers, hit the claymores and blowing them up. But that's the first wave. And now the second wave comes right after that with not even hardly a break of time. The next 50 guys coming, right? And you talk about panic, right? And you can't get to the LZ and you're in a crater and you got to get the LZ to get out in extraction. And you're going to have to pull smoke, which is identifying where you're at. And you turn your hat upside down orange so your chopper guys in the machine gun don't kill you as you're running to the chopper. And usually someone hurries up and gets on the strings, and now the chopper's nervous and he has to pull you out of triple canopy. That means you're hitting trees as you're going out and cutting you up and banging you up. And by the time your buddy's down there on the string below you, they call them McGuire strings, and he's bleeding out as you're 5,000 feet in the air trying to get back to in country, right?
Yeah.
And every mission was by the chin of your chinny chin chin you lived. And so I've always said I was a Marine, but compared to you guys, in all due respect, I was a Cub Scout.
Yeah.
I mean,
those guys are insane. I've got to shout out to Gene Pugh, who's our resident special forces. We have a Marine meeting once a month called the Marine Metroplex, and he's our honorary Marine. Gene was Mac V SOG and has written a couple books, so I'll send you a copy of his book.
Yeah,
he's
that'd
incredible.
Be great. I read them all, and I've just written a script about Vietnam that I'm really proud of and really excited. So we'll see if it happens. But there's a scene where they call the Marines in, and it's there's a true story about Marines coming in as a force, hatchet force, and the hatchet force is pretty sizable group of guys coming in to be inserted by chopper, and be multiple choppers inserting them, and they turned on their friggin' sirens in Vietnam. The fucking Marines are here, dude. And they said,
what? In real life?
Yeah. And they said, what are you doing during that friggin' siren? We don't give a shit. We're here to fight. Bring it on. It's a great story. And it's only one little scene, but I thought I'm going to give the Marines this story. It's great,
Oh my
Force
God.
Recon, they did a good job.
Do you ever know Barney Barnum? Do you ever
No,
Medal of Honor recipient?
no,
Barney, his second day in Vietnam, he's the lieutenant. He's an arty guy,
yeah,
FO,
uh huh,
and his company gets hit. The CO gets killed, XO killed, OPSO wounded, like out of it.
yeah,
Radio operator's dead, and Barney doesn't know anybody. And he gets up there and he gets to where the CO was, and there's the dead radio operator. So he grabs his radio off his back and
yeah,
he calls in. He goes, "I need fire on blah 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 blah." And the guy goes, "Roger, authenticate whiskey Bravo Charlie Charlie Delta Oscar." And he goes, "I don't have the goddamn codes." "No, I'm sorry, sir. I can't give you fire unless you can authenticate." He goes, "Let me tell you something, motherfucker. If I
yeah,
make it out of this thing, I'm going to cut your head off and I'm going to blah, 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 blah." And the guy
yeah,
goes, "Roger that. Authenticated. Whiskey Charlie Bravo Bravo. Fire for effect." and
yeah,
and the rounds come in, and then he calls back and he gets hold of whoever the head guy, the colonel, and the guy goes, "Barney," or he's like, "Lieutenant, you've got this. All your training, you've got this." And he's like, "Roger that, sir." So he's up there on a ridge line, and the helicopters won't come in because it's too hot. And he's got all these wounded guys.
yeah,
So he's standing there, and bullets are snapping past him, and he's running back and forth on the ridge line, waving at the helicopter. And he goes, "If I can stand up on the ridge line, you can get your sorry asses down here and pick up my wounded and drop off the ammo." And they're
that's
like,
right.
"Roger that." So they come in, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah,
They're getting hit left and right, force down, transfer helicopters. They get the wounded, they get the ammo. He got the Medal of Honor that day, second day in Vietnam. He goes,
oh wow,
he goes, "I didn't even know any of my guys' names, and then
yeah,
now they pull me out and they said, "Hey, now you got the Medal of Honor. You're out of here." Shipped him
yeah,
back.
wow,
But
that's a great story. I
crazy
didn't.
story.
I was thinking, I would volunteer for like rescue. We rescued a recon outfit once, and they were under fire, and they just couldn't talk, so they keyed their mic because they were surrounded.
Oh
So
shit.
yes, no is, and that's how you communicate, right? Would you like a battery 6 Willie Peter in adjustment? Would you like a battery HE in effect? And so we would. That's how we're talking to them, and then pretty soon there's they start crying on the phone on the radio, prick 25 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and the the head of Forest Recon back in the rear gets on the radio and starts yelling at him, right? "Oh, you're a fucking Marine, you're recon, you don't do this shit, you don't give us, sir, we're surrounded, there's no way out. They're like, you know, 20 yards from us everywhere. And I don't give a shit, Now you call in artillery with key in the radio. Do not give up, right?" So anyway, they kept fighting, and to make a long story short, we got them out, right? Now they're coming back through the rice paddies, somewhere between C2 and Contien, somewhere, and it's real pretty down in there. We go out with that same sergeant major that was smoking 2 cigarettes in a hole earlier, right, the other day, and
Yeah.
he always made nervous because he didn't show me a lot of valor, right? I was thinking, sure, you're my sergeant major, and so anyway, little guy,
Nervous
Bandy
Nancy.
Rooster, and Bandy Rooster's with us, and sure enough, he wants to do. We're going to set up mortars and set up some flares. And how many guys want to volunteer? So I volunteered, and some other guys. I have a bunch of grenades. Like I'm kind of like a cherry of sorts, right? About all my grenades and my magazines, and I'm fit to kill, man. I'm gonna kill a lot of people, right? They mess with
Uh-huh.
me, and so we go out there and we shoot these flares, and flares just light up everything. It's so interesting how bright those flares are. And
Yeah.
finally those guys came, and a couple of them were blown to shit and butts blowing off and bleeding like crazy, but we
Wow.
got them all back. And same thing happens sometimes with women. That were Viet Cong in their black pajamas, we'd blow them up. And so, there's a funny story. The women would always come up to Marines and say, "Oh, you Marine? Yeah. Oh yeah, you number one, Army number 10, Marine number one. You very handsome Marine, and all the time they're stealing the tools out of your truck while you very handsome Marine. And so we look at them, we'd let them do it for a while. We knew what they're doing. We'd take a smoke grenade and throw a smoke grenade. I'm a dee bow, dee bow. And they would go crazy, but they quit stealing our tools and shit. But
Well, when you got choppered out there on top of a mountain somewhere, the bad guys know you're flying down the valley. They see it land somewhere. How much time did you have to do stuff before you knew the bad guys were going to be heading your direction?
well, we always anticipated they were already heading there, but how much time once we were inserted to do a
Yeah,
survey, um, seemed like forever, but probably a half hour to 45 minutes.
man.
And so, we would know a known hill, like up on the hill there. We'd hurry up and shoot that. That's
Yeah,
0.0095 or 9 or 5. And then we you triangulate, get all those numbers, all those known facilities
yeah.
inscribed on the paper, and call for extraction, and then get in kind of a defensive position, and hopefully you don't get firefight, but and to
But your
get
buddies your
extraction.
buddies got you wired for the perimeter to be able to call in
Yeah,
fire if you needed it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But there weren't very many of us. We were like a
Yeah.
team of six, maybe at most,
Well, I'm
sometimes
excited.
four.
I contacted Scott Casey and Pat Ribbon. They're both arty guys out of Hawaii,
Oh,
and
cool.
so they're gonna watch this show. So I know they're gonna leave some comments down there for you. But that
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah. Well,
Who?
we had a when I came back from Vietnam. I'll tell you two more stories, and then tell me to stop if I'm taking
No,
too much
no,
of your
no, no.
time.
This is
I've never told
awesome.
all these stories, so you're the
Yeah, no,
first ones that heard a lot of them.
this is
But
great.
so this one I've told before. But anyway, I when I came back, and then I got into film and television over time, and that was kind of a weird coincidence. But anyway, I ended up in it and starring in Lassie, and in movies, and in Chips, and then
Yeah,
movies of the week, and so on. But then in my so-called heyday, I call it the indulgent days of a young man with identity crises, right?
right.
And learning who you are and what you are, and trying to define that with character instead of bullshit. And so I went to I like speaking engagements, so I went to give a speech for in Washington D.C. for POWMIAs,
Mhm.
and I wasn't really happy with the POWMIA organization. I felt like there was a lot of withholding of information and research and intel. But anyway, I went there and did it. And then I had to give a speech for all the veterans at Indianapolis, and then there was a big convention of veterans. And I went with the VFW and met with President Reagan and discussed the POWMIA issues with him. That was kind of a really great, honorable experience for me.
Yeah.
And then I had to go and do a public service announcement for the American Legion. I have a big plaque, a really nice one that they did for me in copper, and all this lettering about my contribution, if you will, in Vietnam, and and that this honor that they gave me, and would I do a public service announcement about save the American flag, don't desecrate the American flag, because that's
Yeah.
not freedom of expression. So I did this thing I have up here in my garage somewhere called Save the Flag. It's someone says, "What are your most favorite films?" I says, "Well, there's two kinds of most favorite. There's Dirty Dozen I did with Lee Marvin. I'm proud of that, and Last Hard Man with James Coburn and Charlton Heston. I'm pretty proud of that weird character I did in that, et cetera, et cetera." And even when I read for Miami Vice, I'm really proud of my reading that's on YouTube, being
I
Larry
saw that.
Wilcox. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I said, but those aren't what I'm really deeply proud of. I'm proud of this video I did called Save the Flag. And so I did this this PSA announcement, 30, 60-second commercial, or maybe 3 minutes, telling people don't burn the flag and don't vote to burn the flag. And we defend it. And I can always hear the lanyards banging on the flagpole, ding ding, ding ding. When I was in the rear in Dong Hai, it was a really lonely kind of sound for me, hearing that flag, ding, ding. Nothing else other than, little firecrackers going off a firefight close by, right? And to this day, those lanyards haunt me. But so when I go to a cemetery and there'll be a flag and the wind's blowing and it's banging on the flagpole, and I kept doing this commercial, and every time I'd get to this one point about Contien, I'd start crying, right? And it got worse and worse and worse. Now I'm sobbing. And same thing happened when I gave a speech once for 5 policemen that were killed in the line of duty. And I got to talking about trust and loyalty and what loyalty means. And people don't understand, what you'll do for loyalty and how deep it is, right? And then I started sobbing at this police thing, and their families are out there. I sobbed like a jackass and ruined the event. And same thing in this commercial, but it took me about, usually I can do something in 1 or 2 takes. I'm really good. My memory's really good and so on. But this was like 15, 20, 30 takes, right? I always wonder what they did of all those takes that I screwed up, crying and stuff. So some months or year after that, I come back to Washington, D.C. for something, and they asked me if I want to meet the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And I said, yeah, that would be an honor. I appreciate that. Thank you. And that was Commandant Burrow, I think was his name. Barrow.
Right.
Yeah. And so I go to, I don't know if I was in the Pentagon or where, but in his
Navy
office.
Annex, right next door to the Pentagon. The Navy Annex was where the Commandant's office was.
And so I went in his office and I go to meet the Commandant. He's a good guy. And we talked, and we talked about stuff that I won't mention. It isn't politically correct, and we were making fun of things and how the world's changing and perspective and lens, and everyone has a lens. And, even then, things were starting to change a little bit. And, but he was still, a man's man and a Marine and a great perspective on leadership. And so he said, how'd you, what about coming back in the Marine Corps? Would you like to do that? And come back as an officer? And I said, well, I would be willing to quit my television series if I could come back in the Marine Corps. And he said, really? Oh, you would quit your series? You're making millions of dollars and you're going to quit it? I said, yeah, if I can be a fighter pilot. And I'm a pilot. He says, you are? I said, yeah, but I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I've flown in A4s. I flew with the Blue Angels. I went through ejection seat training. I flew in A7s against F-16s. I get my plane inverted and I get crazy. I buzz film sets and make them pissed off and make noises so they can't film. And I give surfers in the ocean haircuts. I mean, I can fly. I can land in like short fields. My canopy comes open. I'm a wannabe jet pilot, And he says, well, how's your vision? It's almost 2020. Yeah, I said, I don't think that's going to happen, right? Yeah, I said, well, it's pretty close. Yeah. No, I said, not at your age and that. It's millions of dollars and the pilot and then the training and then the jet. And that's a long ways off, Larry. I don't think we can do that. I said, well, he said, but you come in as a public relations lieutenant. And I said, well, what happens if you go to war again? He said, well, you go to war. No, I'm not doing that. See ya. So that was the end of my Marine Corps life,
Well, go back. I've got this right here. There's you in the A4, so you got to go up in number 7?
Yeah. I went in the Blue Angels, and I told them after we did everything, loops and all kinds of G-force and everything, I said, go on, hurt me, because I'm not going to ever do this again. So I did that twice. And then in the Air Force, in the A4 down at Miramar, I went through ejection seat training down there. And then I flew the same day. They said they don't like to do that because ejection seat training is a lot of 225 Gs per second on your body. So it's not really good to go and fly now with high Gs again. But we did. We went out to 29 Palms and did low altitude bombing runs and strafes and all that stuff, right? And then we came back and buzzed the CO's house, right? And we had a great time. And I got my little leather pilot jacket, that I wear
Uh-huh.
around. It won't fit me today. I'm a little too big. And but I was so proud of that. I'd wear that to my chipset and in my Porsche. I was more proud of my pilot jacket than I think I was of my ego and my chip series. But then, and I'll tell you this last quick story. I flew in the A7 with Top Gun pilots from the Air Force. I was doing a movie up there, and I was playing a Vietnam ace, and I got
Uh-huh.
to do war games at F-16s, and we go into
Oh,
briefing, and then they said, well, you can't fly unless you've been through ejection seat training. I said, dude,
I have.
I have. And they said, well, we're going to check, so don't bullshit us.
Uh-huh.
And, I like actors. And I said, okay. So they went and checked. Sure enough, there's on my record, right? I've been through it. So, hey, man, way to go. Okay, we're going to three of us war games against the cadets in the F-16s. And you really want to do this because it's going to be some heavy G's because we're in an inferior aircraft and we got to get upside down and come up and do belly shots. And,
Right.
we got to do a lot of maneuvers and because they're in a much superior aircraft. So, yeah, no problem. And my inner ear, something's wrong with this. What do you mean? I said, I don't know. I don't have all that fluid in my cochlea and I don't get dizzy. So do it. Let's hurt me. So we went out.
Oh,
We had war games. And I'm flying the jet as we take off, right?
yeah.
I'm so proud of myself. You can appreciate it because you're a real pilot, right? And a fighter pilot, and so I'm flying this thing, and
Oh,
I
I'm
have
just a cargo guy, but I've got a story for you after that. Go.
all
Yeah.
right. So I have my wingman on each side, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking over at my wingman. My appendages are growing by feet. I'm such a big man. I'm looking at him. Oh my goodness, I'm flying this thing. I love the sound of jets and the noise
Yeah.
and we're taking off. The gears up and okay, Larry, I'm going to let you fly for a little while. But then when the Denver Tower comes on and says war games on, bogeys at such and such, right? I'll take the plane. Okay, I said okay. So it was so cool having those wingmen tucked into you, and you're
Yeah.
flying along and all of a sudden the announcement comes over the radio. He's, I got it, and heads up to play. He's looking at it, and you see the heads up and see what's, and I can't see anything. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, right? But
Right.
all of a sudden, he said, okay, game's on. We got him at 12 o'clock, and wingman peels off, and the other wingman peels off, and we're coming. I don't know. I think we're coming straight at him, but all of a sudden we get inverted, right? And we go down just killer G's, right? And I'm grunting, and then we pull back up. Anyway, we belly shoot an F-16, right? The Denver Tower calls it. We got him, right? We got that win, if you will. I don't know the vernacular and or remember it, but anyway, we end up winning the war games.
Uh-huh.
And these F-16 pilots are worse than actors. Their egos. I mean, just young pompous jackasses, right?
Right.
And swaggy and the best of the best and whatever. But we win in this old A7, right? And I'm in the J model. I think it's called a two-seater, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, now we have to. My wingman go back and land, and he says, "You want to do anything else?" I said, yeah, let me do some loops and stuff and hurt myself, right? So we do
Uh-huh.
all that, and I did the loop, and we do rollovers and tried to do them points. You know how you do it,
Yep.
and we had fun doing that. And then he's all of a sudden he says, "Okay, Larry, let me take the controls for a minute." And he takes it and he says, "We have a hydraulic out and our gears are all screwed up, so we're going to have to declare emergency. You remember your ejection seat training?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay, so pull your visor way down." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because in the A7 you go through the glass." I looked up. He says,
Yeah.
"See that uh, gunpowder on there?
The
Yeah,
l-
that's going to
the
go." And then
C4 that blows up. Yeah.
yeah, and I said, "Oh my God, really?" So, and I remember reading all the book, keep your hands in, and so I'm thinking, do you going to pull this one or pull the one down in your groin? Right? So I'm pulling this one because I want my head back so I don't snap my neck, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he said, "Okay, I'm going to say eject, eject. If you don't eject, I'm going to eject you. So don't be sloppy. Remember what your ejections you trained about." I said, "I'll be good." Part of me is excited. I'm going to eject, dude. And the
Oh
other part is
God.
saying,
No.
"Oh, you're a dumbass. You're going to get really hurt here. You might lose a leg, an arm, something."
Spine compressed.
Yeah. And so I was both scared and happy. It was a
Yeah.
conflict of emotions. But we caught he never had caught a wire in his life, and he caught it on the first try because he
Oh,
said
wow.
our nose wheel steering. I said you can pump the gear down and lock it like my airplane. That's what I do. I have retractable gear. Yeah, that's good. You know that, but not the front wheel. We'll just explode. So I'm going to try to catch it and then pop up in the air, and I'm going to say eject, eject, and we hopefully will be high enough, but it may not be that high. So make
Yeah.
sure you eject. So we caught the thing, and they came over. You got the $1.99 ride, Wilcox. You know.
Well, that's your airplane right there, that Navion. What year is
Yeah.
that? 46?
49, I think it is. That's a Ryan Navion. I changed the angle of incidence 6 degrees on my wing to make it a hot rod.
Uh-huh.
I took the Lycoming out at 260 and put an IO 520 Continental in it. I had
Nice.
Hollywood build this nose cone so there's no parasitic drag like the original one.
Uh-huh.
And I put a big 3-bladed prop, put all new glass windows in here for. I was going to
Wow.
make it an all glass canopy because I was such a wannabe fighter pilot. Then
Yeah.
I milled my gear down so they're completely flush when they come up, no parasitic drag.
Yeah.
The step I took off, if you can't jump up on my wing, you can't get in my airplane because I didn't want any drag, right? And I have tip tanks out on the tip, so
Yeah.
I fly to Cedar City, Utah from Los Angeles, Van Nuys Airport, and then I would land and guys come out. And then it was my heyday in Chips, and they say, "Hey, aren't you the guy from Chips? Yeah, is
Yeah.
this your airplane? Yeah, I'm real proud of it, right? Yeah, this is my Navion. Why are you flying this old piece of shit?
Ah!
It's like, dude, don't insult my airplane. Come
Yeah, I know.
on. Yeah.
It's a
But I
beauty, man. I'd
landed in
take
the
that in a heartbeat.
dirt and wagon trails, ranches, you name it,
Yeah.
man. It was awesome.
What a great plane. How long did you have her?
I had about 10 years, I'd say. I've got, I don't know, 800 hours or so flying it, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a
Well,
blast.
when you come out, for those didn't catch his TCU, Go Horn Frogs.
Yeah.
When you do come out to Dallas to visit your son, let me know because I'll get you up in my buddy's 42 Stairman. He is he is probably one of the top 3 tailwheel guys I've ever flown with. And
Awesome.
and that Stairman, he'll put you through the paces on that. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be great. I
Yeah.
flew in a Stearman that Steve McQueen used to own.
Oh
And
wow.
that's a really interesting experience. What was the guy? Chuck Bales. Chuck Bales was a stuntman and a director, and he
Uh-huh.
took me up in his. He bought it from Steve McQueen. But yeah, it's a cool airplane.
It's a great airplane. That's when I looked at Stearman's, the prices in the late 90s. For whatever reason, they had Stearman crazy. And a $50,000 Stearman all day was now 95, 120,000 with
Yeah,
new fabric. And I was like, I can't afford that. So I ended up buying the Fleet 2 biplane that I was telling you about earlier. I
yeah,
bought that for 40,000, and I flew that for 8 years, 9 years. I love that airplane.
yeah. It's
But then,
cool.
but this is what my wife got me into armored scout cars.
Oh
So
wow.
so I started rebuilding those in the garage with my best friend Michael,
Uh huh.
and so I had a whole fleet. People go, "Hey, what's your HOA say about having armored scout cars?" I'm like, "They don't say crap. I'm the president."
That's great. That's
So
awesome.
so when you come out here, I'll pick you up in the Hummer. We rebuild Hummers now, and we take them out for drives, and just our whole neighborhood has. As a matter of fact, I was hog hunting last night till 1:30 in the morning with my Hummer's got a troop carrier in the back,
Uh
so
huh.
it's my son, myself, my neighbor Chuck. I've got the night vision goggles on. He's got thermal on his AR, and we're
Yeah.
driving around the neighborhood because the pigs have they're building all around us, and the pigs are moving into the neighborhood,
Ooh.
which they've never done, eating up people's nice front yards. So
Yeah.
we have carte blanche to kill, and we've killed 6 hogs. So we're out driving around last night, till 1:30 in the morning with MVGs on, lights off, and thermals hanging out
That's a
the
blast. I'd love
side.
to do that. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
come down to Texas, man. I'm telling you,
yeah.
we'll hook you up.
My son's
Uh,
done that a couple times, but that sounds really fun, exciting.
oh, you know what? I'll get you in a helicopter as well. We could do the helicopter hog hunt and shoot
Oh yeah.
hogs from the air.
Oh, that'd
So
be awesome.
fully
I
automatic M4s.
I think this is a false carrot and a false representation. I won't know till tomorrow, but I think I may be owning a Embraer Phantom 350. Do you know what that plane is?
No, is that
It's
jet? Private
yeah,
jet?
yeah, eight passenger jet for personal use. It's
Wow.
this deal I'm signing. We'll see if it gets signed or not.
Oh, that
But
is so
whether I
cool.
signed it or not, I've always wanted to have that Cub too, that with the big tires that you can land in. Is really,
Yeah,
I
Super
forgot
Cub.
what
Well,
they Piper Cub something, but
did you
those
did
are
you
so
see
cool.
did you see the dude that flew just 2 days ago? Flew a Piper Cub PA-18 to 37,000 feet.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
I have to send you that link. He
Yeah.
goes up to 37,000 feet. He's got an oxygen mask on
Yeah.
every time he breathes. The
Yeah.
smoke's coming, and he's like, "Yeah, one Tango November passing 32,000, requesting 37,000 now." And they're like, "Roger that." And United goes, "Hey, center, did did that guy say Piper something 31,000, 32,000?" He goes, "What
Yeah.
kind of aircraft is it?" And center comes back and says, "That's a PA-18." The guy goes, "A what? How the hell is he up here?"
Yeah. Wow.
He had a
Wow.
Rotex, turbo Rotex on the
Oh,
front of that.
yeah. Yeah, the Rotex. Wow, I
Yeah,
read a lot about those. I'd like to have one of those. I would love to collect airplanes. I'd like to have a T-28. I could have
yeah,
bought a T-28 back when I bought my Navy one for so cheap. It was
yeah,
unbelievable. It's too late now.
yeah. But
And
the gas
then,
now will kill you.
yeah, and then the P-51, of course, would be a great. And then there's an A4 in Arizona. They want 3 million, but the Air Force pilot said, I don't know. I don't think you should get the A4 because they burn a lot of fuel on the
Yeah.
short wheels base. He said you should get the T-38. The trainer for the Air Force. That'd be a
Ooh.
good aircraft for you. So I don't know. Now they have the what is it? The F5 or
Yeah,
T5 or Red Tail.
God,
Cool
there's so many,
airplanes.
yeah, so many different jets if you really had the money to play into stuff like that.
Yeah.
My my wife is kind of Satan's sister. She got me out of small airplanes and into
Yeah.
the armored
Ground
vehicles because
vehicles.
she goes, it's a little safer. We lost a couple friends, and she goes, it's a little safer than GA. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. She's right.
buddy. Well,
Especially with no towers having a problem. So makes you a little nervous with air traffic
ah,
control today.
I would take off with somebody in the biplane. We'd take off. We would turn left, head west, go buzz cows, fly over the fields. It was a time machine. That
Yeah.
was a that was a time machine because when you came back and your ears were ringing about 8 plus,
Yep.
"Ee!" for
Yeah.
for 45 minutes on the drive home, I'd listen to that and I'd think that's the exact same sound the guys heard in the flying wires back in 1929
Yeah.
when they were flying my airplane.
Yeah. Wow.
Good times.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
a question I always had, and I wrote to you. When you became famous,
Uh-huh.
did you still have any core Marine Corps guys that you kept up with that were, kind of your posse or friends that they had your back no matter what? Did
No,
you
I
have any
remember you
make any
asked me
friends
that.
like that?
I didn't. When I came back from Vietnam, then I went to 29 Palms, and when I was 29 Palms, and I got married, so wasn't. I never have been a guy's guy. I've always kind of been a loner, and
Mhm.
so for whatever reason, I didn't. Although when I did Lassie, the a lot of the crew were Marines, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I did Chips, the director of photography was the same one on Lassie, and he was a Marine, and so were a lot of the crew. So we always joked about, the only
Marine
real
Mafia.
men here are the Marines, right? And but no, I never really kept in touch with anybody.
God, yeah, I wondered about that. I was a guest for the Marine Corps birthday ball 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and and as I was giving the speech, I said, "You know what? I mean, the camaraderie and the friendships that you have." I said,
Yeah,
"Watch this," and I just picked up the phone. I said, "Hey, Siri." Oh, now my phone lights up. Blah blah blah.
yeah,
call blah blah blah, and as we're standing there, the phone is ringing. I put it on speaker, and I go, "Hey, Ken, yeah, hey, it's Taco. Hey, what's up, brother?" I go, "Listen, my daughter's boyfriend's getting a little randy, and I think I may have to take him out. You help me hide the body." And he goes, "Well, can you fly him out to North Carolina? We'll put him on my boat. They'll never find him. We'll just wait him off." We're sitting there having this conversation live, and I go,
Yeah.
"Hey, that's all I need to know. If I needed to, Siri's going crazy. If I needed to hide a body, you're there for me." And he goes, "Dude, I got your back. Roger
Yeah.
that. Thanks." And
Yeah.
hang up. And it was, as I was telling everybody, I said, that's the kind of loyalty and friendship that you have, that you develop in the Marines.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I always look forward to doing business deals with Marines in my present day life, and it gives me a certain feeling of trust and honor. So it's good.
yeah.
God bless
Well,
them.
I tell you what, I've kept you for an hour and 46 minutes, and I can't tell you how fast it feels like 15.
Thank
So,
you.
so
Well,
do me a
thank you
favor.
for having me.
Yes, sir. I tell you what, I'm going to say goodbye. If you hang on, I've got something I want to run by you real quick.
Okay.
Uh, thanks. Just hang out 1 second. I'll say goodbye, and we'll shut this down,
Okay. Thank you.
folks. Larry Wilcox, production company, entrepreneur, businessman, pilot, vet. God, man, we could go on. Yeah. All right. Hold on 1 second, boss. And
Okay.
let me
Thank you.
drop you out. Thank you. Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. It's been a long 2.5, 3 months since I've had a podcast due to upgrading to captain on the 787 and flying around the world. So it's good to be back. And I can't thank Larry Wilcox enough. And also Ken Farmer, my friend up north, who did the introduction to Larry. You guys have a great one. We got some more great stuff coming here. And until I see you again, adios, hasta luego, sa wiedersehen, tschüss, shishini, au revoir, domarigato gozaimasu, tando shinde kudasai, ciao, rividici, tashikor, assalamu alaikum, mahala, dovidzenia, das vidanya, and all the rest. Here we go. I think we're going to end with this one.